There was absolutely no way to be around Matt Boles and not be the happiest you were that moment and that day, that week.
And he was like so full of life that you couldn't help but laugh out loud until like your stomach hurt when you were around him.
Anything that, he could think to do, he would do, and not even think. He didn't have fear or anything.
Like, he was one of those people that if you were talking to him, he was somebody that would listen and not be thinking what he was going to say next or what he wanted to tell you.
Yeah, I'm not the most upbeat person in the world, but he kind of like made me a little more enthusiastic about everything.
Matt was sweet and kind, but he had a hot head, but that's part of the Boles family thing. We all have hot heads.
He got really serious sometimes and got mad easily.
One time he got sent to the sport room for headbanging during a orchestra concert. So he was, he had a sense of humor.
He just liked to do anything ridiculous that would get a good laugh.
Katie she was such a loving person that you couldn't help but just be attracted to her and just want to talk to her all the time. And she was also hilarious. And both of them together, you just like couldn't help yourself but like laugh at them.
Caitlin was probably one of the sweetest people, that I've ever come in contact with.
She just always knew how to help people.
The best big sister in the world. She took care of the kids. She kind of ran the household a lot.
She was like our second mom, basically.
Because she made us clean, she cooked us dinner, and I just remember like having a lot of fun doing that kind of stuff.
I guess when he was about 9, he picked up skating.
When he put his mind to master something, he literally applied himself, whether it was a guitar or whether it was skating.
Every single day of the week during school, he would probably skate 3 hours a day. Saturdays, he would skate 10 hours a day. Often, he never would even eat. During the summer, he probably did 8 to 10 hours every day, 6 days a week. And he was as focused of a skater as I've ever seen.
Yeah, even in the winter, when it gets dark around 4:45, 5 o'clock, we get off school, get in at 3, still go to the skate park. He's always down, he's like, gotta go, skate.
He would go for the biggest jumps. He would, try things time after time after time, like fall, bust himself up. He was, striving to succeed.
And so Matt skated all the time, and oftentimes we didn't see him very much because he was skating. And of course, if I go back also when he was about 10, he picked up the guitar. Matt transitioned from the piano to the guitar, and then we got him an electric guitar, and he played all the time and was self-taught and actually was a very good guitar player.
Just saw him play guitar at, talent show, 8th grade.
And all the girls were like freaking out. It's like middle school. They're like, oh my gosh, he's so awesome.
And all the girls were like, oh my gosh, Matt Boles, because he shredded it. He just, killed it. And I was like, oh, no, kid, pretty much just kind of jealous, because, wicked awesome on the guitar.
He wrote a lot of songs, and he was very, very musically oriented. So he had these two outstanding artistic things. His skating and his music were two highlights in his life. And we have some interesting stories about Matt and the girls, where young boys their age would come to them at school and ask them, they said, is Matt Boles your brother? Can you get his autograph for me? And I didn't realize how much of a local superstar he was when it came to skating and his music, but he was looked upon by as a skating icon to many of these younger kids because he was a nice guy. He would help them out and teach them things and wanted to further the sport. Along the way, he was a Boy Scout that just did awesome. He was about to get his Eagle Scout. He was going to do his Eagle Scout project on the rebuilding of the Westminster Skate Park and had attended the first committee meeting there. And he was going to make that his project. And he was dedicated to seeing skating furthered in this town. He was all about that.
He was passionate, I think would be one of the biggest words I use for Matthews. If he was passionate about something, he was in it, completely in it. And
he was really, really passionate about church, and I always respected him a lot for that.
Like he would try to take me to like some youth groups and stuff, but I mean, I usually didn't see him much on Sundays.
He was a really, really fun kid to raise. He just really was. He never really, you know, challenged us too much. He would challenge sometimes, but he was just a really fun kid to raise.
I don't know if she really liked to take care of us, but she did it.
She was just a really smart kid. But when she started preschool, they were just like, you don't understand, she's doing stuff that she shouldn't be doing yet. You know, she was just a really smart kid.
Every time I see a cupcake, all I think of is Caitlin, every single time. She was super into baking and cooking. She would always call me when she had made some new strange concoction, and she was really into a lot of vegan stuff, really like natural food.
She tried to influence me to not eat so much meat a lot. She loved to cook, and whenever she would cook, she would take pictures of her food and post it on the internet, and she was very involved. She started working at Starry Night Cafe when she was 15, and I can remember picking her up, and she just came in, she goes, "Oh, I love my job," and she was covered in flour and dough, and she was all tired, but she loved baking.
She was very into everything she did. She put 100% in everything she did, and she wanted to be the best at everything she did.
The best report, the best project, the best grades. I don't know if she ever got a B in her life, frankly, I really don't.
She's 3 years younger than I am, but she was just wise beyond her years.
She just really loved to challenge herself academically. That was like her big thing, is she wanted to be the best at school that she could possibly be. And she was like very personable and had a great social aspect to her as well as an academic aspect to her.
She was self-motivated. We never had to ask her if she got her homework done. She was always pushing us to help her do more. Phenomenal, very low maintenance when it came to school. It was a joy to be her parent.
Matthew just adored her from the time she was born, and there was just so many pictures of them holding hands. Like the whole family would be together, but Matt and Caitlin would be standing there holding hands, or, you know, they were inseparable from the time they were young.
Matt and Caitlin were the most dynamic duo of Westminster.
They were so in love with each other as brother and sister, and so close, but yet so different. Katie basked in the ability to be the #1 academic person in the world and loved to be acknowledged for that. And Matt didn't really care about academics at all, even though he was a 4.0. It all came easy to him. He didn't really want to have much to do with it. He just wanted to skate.
I remember in high school, Matt came home and goes, "The principal asked me if Katie was my girlfriend." And I said, "Because I'm with her all the time." I'm like, oh boy. But they were inseparable. They were together a lot, so they were fun, yeah. I really kind of started having a bad feeling about them going to take that test, going to their ACT test in the morning. And my husband had gone out to the Washington, D.C. temple, the Mormon temple that's in Washington, D.C. And he had called me and he said he was supposed to go to some training.
I decided, I don't think I'm gonna go. And I just got him up, and Michelle got him out the door, and I went back to bed.
And they actually overslept a little bit. So they were rushed trying to get ready, and Caitlin, who's always prepared, had everything ready and was ready to go. And Matt, you know, hadn't printed off his pass to get into the test yet, and then he couldn't remember his password to get his test. We're a pretty religious family, and the night before I was like, I have to have a prayer with them before they go so that they can arrive safely. And because everything was so crazy and them trying to get out the door, we didn't get a chance to do that. And so, you know, the last things I said to him was just like, good luck on the test and drive safe. And, you know, that was it. That was all I said to him.
she got us up shortly after, and we had a prayer asking our Father in heaven to make sure that they're safe, everything would go good that day. It's something we often did, you know, all the time for many of the kids.
And I just kind of put it out of my mind after that. I really kind of felt a sense of peace and felt okay about it.
Went back to bed for a little while, got up, we were messing around, we went to breakfast with my older son.
And we came home, and you know, at the time, it was when all the presidential debates were going on, and Saturday Night Live was doing all those spoofs on like Sarah Palin and that, and we were just, you know, maybe halfway through the first one, and
the doorbell rang and I went to get it, and it was a policeman.
And Becca was like, "Mom, Dad, the police are at the door."
They whispered it to us, "The police are at the door." And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "The police is at the door." And so Pat got up.
They were already on our doorstep, and I didn't understand why they had come in without talking to a parent or whatever, and so I asked them to go outside, and I went outside with them, and then they told us. And
I was going through like Kristen, Natalie, Patrick, like my older siblings, and I was like, maybe one of them are in the hospital, and I was like, it can't be Matt and Caitlin, it can't be Matt and Caitlin. Like, that was the one thing I was like almost sure of.
I went out and joined him outside, and the trooper told us at that time that they had been in an accident and that Matt was killed instantly at the scene and had died, and that Caitlin was taken to shock trauma. For some reason, Matt's car spun on the road, and a car was coming the other way and hit him. And, you know, out there on that road, most of the people are driving 50 plus miles an hour, both directions, and the impact was just terrible.
I was completely shattered. To me, it was like the earth had been chopped in half with an axe to me. And it was like my entire body was split open. Matthew was the greatest son ever. And I treasured him dearly. Love all my kids. Matthew had something special. And he was just so close to me. We'd spent so much time together. It was like I had died at that moment.
I don't know, I kind of feel like I stepped back from it all. Like, wait a minute, this isn't real. Because after we said that prayer in the morning, I just felt very good about everything, and I think I stepped back and went, wait a minute, this isn't right. This is not right. And I just kind of leaned against the wall and just stood there, and he was pretty upset.
You know, I look back and I feel so bad for those state troopers to have to deliver that message. That had to be the hardest thing anybody could ever do in their life. And they did it with grace, and it was very sweet. And I guess as a preservation method, I just kind of switched gears and right away tried to focus on Caitlin and that she was still alive, and that we had to take care of that, whatever it meant. And
they closed the door behind them, and I just remember hearing my mom like outside crying, and I didn't want to be upstairs.
We went down into the basement and started watching a show, and then
Brad comes downstairs and he's like, Dad wants to talk to us in his room. So we all go up there and we're all sitting on the bed, and my dad says, Matt, his dad, has died in a car accident. And that was all he said, and then I started bursting out crying.
I felt like shocked because I haven't seen him for a couple days, so like I was just, I don't know, but I took it pretty hard.
they just exploded in tears and didn't know how to deal with it, and everything was rushing around, and we had to go real quick, and we called our friends the Smiths.
So I kind of just waited, and I got my stuff together, and we went to the Smith's house for like a couple days. So, yeah.
And then we drove to shock trauma, and it was an emotional ride. So
my biggest fear, not my biggest fear, but one of my great concerns was, okay, Caitlin lives and she's okay. How do I tell her that Matt's gone? Matt was her closest friend in the world. And I feared that because I thought that if she knew Matt was gone, that she wouldn't want to be alive. That's how close they were. The closest brother and sister I've ever seen. When I looked at Caitlin, you know, she was unconscious. She didn't really have a scratch on her. There was a small blood mark on the back of her head, but really not a scratch on her. She had apparently a broken pelvis at that time, but she looked fine. And all the feedback we were getting from the doctors at that point were that she has had a head injury, but most likely will come out of it, and with some therapy and things that she would probably be okay. That's what they would tell us, you know, at that point.
You know, that's my initial reaction was just relief that she wasn't as bad as I thought she was, you know, as I thought she was going to be when I saw her for the first time.
They started doing MRIs daily, and her brain injury showed up worse and worse and worse every day, like a bruise. Just kept getting worse. She never was awake.
It was really difficult because every time we went to see her, she just looked worse. When we would go and see her, when we'd start, you know, if we were touching her, or, you know, trying to just, you know, be with, you know, emotionally be attached to her through her physical body, you know, the nurses would come in and say that all her monitors were beeping, and like they said, don't touch her, don't stimulate her, and so it was like we couldn't touch her, and you couldn't talk to her, and you couldn't, you know, and it was just, you know, and it was just really rough.
And after about, I don't know, 7 to 10 days, they basically told us that she would most likely never have a conscious thought in her life. Her vision center was completely destroyed. She would not recover, that they could keep her alive. They could keep her on a ventilator and keep her alive, but that she would never recover.
I finally asked him, I said, are you trying to tell us that it's time for us to make a choice on whether to keep Caitlin on life support or not? I mean, is that what you're trying to tell us? And they said basically yes.
You know, because we were devastated. We didn't know what to do. We talked to all of our church leaders. We went to the temple. We prayed about it. We thought about it. We weren't sure what to do, because Caitlin was the kind of person, you know, she lived for her intellect. And Caitlin would not want to be a vegetable alive. She's just not that kind of person, and would be mad at us today if we chose to keep her alive in a vegetative state. Got this gal on the phone. She was a doctor from Chicago, unattached to the whole situation, because when the doctors are so close, they can only tell you so much. They can't really advise you. And then she mentioned out of the blue, have you thought about organ donation?
And I guess, you know, I don't know why we hadn't thought about that before, considering we thought about it with Matt, but we just weren't thinking about it with Caitlin because, you know, like I said before, I think it was because we thought she was going to live. We didn't think we were going to lose her. And as soon as she said that, it was like you know, it just felt like that's the answer to our prayer when we were trying to figure out what to do. It just felt like that was why Caitlin was still here and why she didn't die at the scene like Matt, that there was someone that she was supposed to help.
We were in an operating room with our entire family, our church leaders, and you know, we were there to view Caitlin's last moments, and they took the tube out and basically gave her a bunch of preparatory drugs for the donations, and there was another operating room set up for her to move to for them to remove her organs to give to others that were waiting.